Hey, good afternoon, Kemma.
Hi, David. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm well, David. There's just been a lot going on, David. There's been a lot going on. So I just have to warn you. One of the things that's been going on is I got a puppy last Thursday. Call it what you want. I don't know if a clock was ticking. I don't know what was happening, but a puppy came out of the situation. And so he's in my lap. So if he jumps up and you see him, don't be afraid. Bayla's still with us, but so is the puppy.
I consider myself forewarned, and I think it's a good situation that results in a puppy, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
Mhm.
exactly.
Uh,
So what's
so
going on, my friend? How are we doing? This is our Wellness Wednesday conversation.
this is, and I think a lot of people will connect with you, Kemma, and empathize with you about a lot going on right
Mm-hmm.
now. Certainly,
Mm-hmm.
for our students, we're coming up on the home stretch of for many of the academic year.
Mm-hmm.
Many students this is their final month and a week before graduation. For
Yeah.
other students, they're closing out their first fall and spring semester. For some, they're thinking about summer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty, packed, exciting, stressful time. And I know
Mm-hmm.
for the people out in the world and our colleagues, there are thoughts about going back to work, staying at home,
Yeah.
getting vaccines, all
Yeah.
sorts of variables in play.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
And it's probably caused people's emotional levels, like their stress levels have probably risen in areas where they may or may not be used to having that level of stress. And so it may have impacted how they are responding in the world, emotionally,
absolutely, a lot of people have been having a lot of cortisol rushing through their systems for the past year and change now. So
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
you're right. So, how one of the, real questions is how do we manage our emotions? What is our kind
Mm-hmm.
of emotional management system
Yeah.
that we use in the world? Um,
Yeah.
so I'm curious to hear your thoughts on some of the different ways that you find that maybe other people manage their emotions and maybe
Yeah.
yourself as well.
Yeah. You know what's interesting, David, about this question is I had to do some work on me a few weeks ago because I was with my sisters and my mom, and we were supposed to be having girls' night. And, we got a hotel room, we got a masseuse to come to give us massage it. What is that word?
I believe the word you're looking for is
Massages.
massages.
Massages. And we had chocolate covered fruit, and it was just really supposed to be a really great time to kind of decompress and just be girls with each other. And I found myself being very snappish with my mom. I was just snapping all over the place. And it wasn't until
I'm
we
sorry to interrupt. Was she
yeah,
eating all the chocolate covered fruit? Because
she
then
was
that would.
not eating all the chocolate covered fruit, right? It was not even that. Like, there was no legitimate reason that you could actually see for the snappish behavior. And um, so the next morning we went to grab some breakfast or brunch or whatever. And I was snapping again. And this is weird because I'm not a snappy person. I can be like a quick comeback kind of person, but not snappy. And and then it just came out that I was angry with my mom, but not really with my mom. I was angry because my mom had been recently diagnosed with some a degenerative illness, and so it's just going to get progressively worse, and it will most likely be the thing that would be terminal for her. And so I wasn't really angry with her. I was just angry because this is my mom and I'm afraid. And I couldn't articulate that. And my mom, culturally, West Africans just, everything is all right. And if it's not all right, it better be all right. It better get all right really quickly because we're not having a conversation about it not being all right. And so, because we had never talked about the diagnosis, it's just been my sisters and I kind of helping her with as we see it progressing really quickly, helping her with things. But we've never talked to our mom about it and how we feel about it and how it's scary for us and how we just wanted more time with her and all of these things, right? And it made me think about the fact that if you don't communicate what you're feeling, um, hopefully to the person, but if you can't do it with a person, then at least with someone who can help you get it out, then you have the potential of just developing resentment and anger and it exploding out of you in the most inopportune moment. You know, like you're in the middle of a conversation with your boss, and next thing you know, you're, what, did you just insult your boss? Like, did you? No, I don't do, like, I have not done that. That's not going to happen. But it could happen if you don't manage your emotions effectively, right? So when I think about my emotional management system, really it's around communication. For me, it really is being able to talk it out. Um, and sometimes with a number of people, like I have a circle of people who I go to for wisdom, to help me to calm my energy, help me to shift my thinking, um, just really supporting me to refocus and reframe what's happening. The other thing that's helpful for me to do, uh-oh, I think I'm hearing an echo. I think I'm getting an echo. The other thing, okay, that's good. The other thing that's helpful for me to do is to, I know this is going to sound crazy, but exercise is really good. It, like, that burning the energy, that, like, getting a chance to sweat it out is another way that it helps me to manage my emotions. Um, because I'm a very religious and spiritual person, going to my faith is another thing that I use to help me. But I've learned along over the years that I have to have something, right? I have to have a way of getting it out, because if I don't, it will explode.
So, Kemma, thank you for kind of giving us that example of how you manage your emotions, and I'm curious in that scenario because it sounds like maybe this was a situation that was a little more atypical for you when you noticed things actually escalate to the point where you started having emotions spill out in ways that you weren't used to, or you your behavior was shaped in a way that it typically wouldn't have been because the emotions were high, because they hadn't been communicated, because they hadn't been burned off. Do you, for the people listening and watching out there, do you think that was kind of a function of the fact that this related to your mom, to someone very personal to you? Do you think that was a precipitating factor in not being able to go about your usual process earlier because of who it was? Because sometimes it's easier to communicate emotions to some people than to others.
David, you hit the nail on the head, exactly where it needed to be. Because it's hard sometimes when we are close to certain people and we know we don't have a particular kind of relationship with them, but we need to have that particular kind of experience so that we can get out the stuff we need to get out. So yeah, like, we have a very, and it's not to say that my mom isn't someone who I can't communicate with, because I can, but she's someone who she doesn't like to talk about deep feelings. That's just not where you go. And that's a cultural thing, right? So we can have conversations about a million things. When I was an adolescent, mommy, I think I'm ready for this level of my relationship to happen. Well, why do you think so? And then I would explain, no, you're not ready. So it's not that we didn't have, that level of closeness, but when it came to when it comes to certain emotional things, deep feeling things that we would sometimes think about, oh, we need to go to a therapist and have a therapist be the, middle person to have this conversation. That's just not something that would happen in our relationship. And so I think I knew that, and because I knew that, I just kept it from her. And my sisters and we would talk about it amongst ourselves, um, but none of us had actually talked to her. And then that day, when it came out, she immediately did her normal thing of just shut down and started rearranging the table, like needing something physical to do to, get out that energy. And then my sisters just kept going and saying, but, mommy, we need to talk. We need to talk. We need to talk. And she surprised me, David. She actually talked. And she started bawling, and then we started bawling. But it gave us an opportunity to do something we had never done. And it gave her an opportunity to tell us how she was feeling about this diagnosis and how she was so afraid. And, all of these things that she had been holding in, but because this isn't her management style, she had not talked about. And so even though we kind of pushed her to do something that's not comfortable for her, in the end, it was very helpful for her because it allowed her to say what she needed to say.
Yeah, Kemma, that's I mean, that's an amazing ending to that scenario. That and like you said, maybe there was a bit of a push, but there was also the opening of a door, right? You also created an opportunity where a different kind of interaction could occur. Not that it necessarily would, and in this case it did, which is wonderful, but you still created that opportunity. It would have been very easy to say, oh, I know how this is going to go. I know it's not going to end up in a place that's going to be helpful, and just stopped it there. But it sounds like you recognize the importance for yourself, for your family, for your mother to try to have a conversation like this. And fortunately, it worked out really, really well. I also think one of the things that I heard in your story is that, Kemma, you're 3 steps ahead of the game too, because you have, really good self-awareness of how you manage your emotions, and when you see behaviors that are atypical, that those are red flags, and they cause you to reflect. So you're, very self-aware, and you have a lot of that knowledge. How would you encourage other people to gain that self-awareness and to understand their emotional management styles?
Yeah, that's a great question, David. Because I think, your question makes me think about some of what's been happening with some of our students. We have seen an increase in a number of email conversations between students and faculty that have been very inappropriate on behalf of the student, right? On the side of the student. The student has been just, you can tell that they're just full, emotionally just way over here, right? And so they're emotionally vomiting. They're just saying it, getting it out. And then they think, okay, so now that I've gotten it out, now we're good, right? So, okay, so tell me, what is it that you need from me? What outstanding work is there, for me to do? Can I get that extra time to do it? And then we have to turn around and say, well, baby, now when you emotionally vomit, you oftentimes shut people down, and you may not get a faculty member who wants to now work with you because regardless of what's going on in your life, you were very disrespectful to them, right? So part of that emotional awareness is really taking time to understand, one, how do I feel when I'm angry? What's going on for me when I'm feeling angry? What's going on for me physically? What's going on in my mind? What do I feel it in my stomach? Do I feel it in my shoulders, in my neck? Right. So you take that body check, that somatic check, to see what's happening to you when you're feeling various emotions. And it's not just anger. You want to get to learn to do these somatic exercises for all of the emotions that you're feeling, right? Because you could have a reaction, a physical reaction when you're feeling excited and happy and joyful. You could have one when you're anxious, when you're scared, when you're worried, when you're angry, when you're raging, right? And so you want to begin to know what's happening in your body. You want to also begin to think about what you think about, right? That metacognition. Think about what you think. So what are the thoughts that are going through your mind when you are happy? Are you saying, I am the stuff, right? Or I am so good? When you're angry, are you saying to yourself, you're stupid, you're so dumb, and is everything tightening up? Is the lizard brain being activated because you're just like, everything is tightening up, including the way you think about yourself and the way you see yourself? You can't even look at yourself in the mirror, right? Are you having a hard time relating to others? Is it feeling like every time you open your mouth, you just get into a fight with someone? And so maybe you want to check to see, what are the words that are actually coming out of my mouth? Like, I need to actually listen to what I'm actually saying to other people, because I may be saying things that is an indication that I am in whatever that emotional state is that you're in, right? So it's doing a lot of reflective work about where you are in your body, where you are in your mind, where you are in your spirit, and how you're relating to other people, and using the feedback. People are, they're great feedback givers. Using the feedback that you get from others as a way to help you begin to set the standard for yourself, to know when you're entering into a particular space and how you should respond. And so then on the other side of that, right, like knowing what your triggers are, knowing how you respond when you've been triggered, it's how do you respond now to de-escalate the trigger, right? Figuring out those things that help you to calm down. For some people, it's doing some kind of exercise. It may be a calming exercise, or it may be a very vigorous exercise, but figuring out how you burn that energy. For others, it might just be sitting quietly and meditating. For others, you might eat, and you might want to check out the eating, because sometimes a little piece of cake is all right, but all the time, if you need it to self-soothe, it's going to cause you another problem if if food is your thing. But maybe it's not food, maybe it's getting a cup of tea, right, to soothe you. So it's just learning what are the various tools that you need to help you de-escalate from the trigger, and you recognize the trigger because you recognize what's going on in your body, your mind, your spirit.
Emma, those are great insights. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, from the somatic awareness, which I think is so critical, and a great way for individuals to start to recognize their state based off their, like you said, their physical experience, and come to associate the two, and also differentiate between different emotions based on that somatic awareness. Like you said, starting to think about your thinking and looking for the reactions around you as feedback, and seeing what kind of consequences what are your emotional management style has, and incorporating that and finding out, okay, is this effective, is this healthy for me, for the systems that I'm in, is it leading to the outcomes that I need to move in the direction I want to as an individual, or is it a barrier, is it keeping me stuck? um, that I think those were wonderful insights. One last question for you as we come to the end of our time here, Kemma. Have you seen, because I think oftentimes in terms of our behaviors, we often like to think that we are more idiosyncratic than our colleagues, than our contemporaries, that only we experience certain things in the world. And oftentimes our patterns of behavior are actually very, very stereotypical, at least among certain sets, that there are patterns that we see in, for instance, how people manage their emotions. Are there any patterns that you've seen that you'd want to highlight for our listeners, to call their attention to say, are you managing your emotions in this manner?
Yeah, that's a great question, David. It what comes to mind, and I'm just thinking about the students, since right now, this has just been a really tough period for them, because of all that has happened. But now they're at the place where we're well beyond the midway mark and we're nearing the end. And so you may find that you have some outstanding work that's done and you're feeling overwhelmed because it's outstanding work in a few classes, and you still have life, you still have work, you still have family, other obligations. And so you're feeling pretty overwhelmed by it all. And so some of the patterns that we're seeing around, maybe the less healthier ways of managing emotions, are the hiding patterns, right? So we will either see students be really heightened in their emotion, and they're here, and so they may respond in ways that seem angry, or that seem very irritable, or just not willing to um, accept feedback, or they hide because they're feeling embarrassed. And so we have faculty reaching out to the students. We have advisors reaching out to the students. We have program support staff reaching out to the students, success coaches, etc., reaching out to the student, and they're hiding from everyone, right? And then they may just continue to not only hide from the people who are trying to support them, but they're also not doing the work that they're supposed to be doing. So they're digging a deeper hole for themselves and then becoming very angry in that hole. because they disappointed people, they feel ashamed and embarrassed. Um, and then the other thing that the other pattern that we're seeing is I'm okay. Yes, everything's fine. I will have that work to you within a week. Yes, I'll give it to you in 2 weeks. And so everything is fine. There are no problems. We're not going to discuss it. If we just avoid it, if we just ignore that that is there, it will be well. So they have this really unrealistic perception about what they can actually do. And they just keep thinking and saying that everything is fine, but they're not really managing the everything at all. They're just giving, lip service to being able to do it. So I think those are the three patterns that we've been seeing for students, just being really reactive, completely avoidant, or unrealistic about what's really happening.
Yeah, Kemma, it sounds like we have a situation of kind of, in terms of being emotionally overwhelmed, fight, flight, or disconnection, um, that are proving to be problematic. Right, like you said, when it's that fight response, you're not receptive to feedback. There may be kind of this emotional vomiting, like you said, just displacing your emotions on the nearest target. Like you said, then when there's those feelings of embarrassment, people might be, instead of that, hiding, then trying to avoid those situations where they feel those emotions coming up for themselves, or like you said, total disconnection from the emotional self, and saying, putting on this guise that everything is okay, and kind of lying to ourselves, right, by saying, oh, it will be fine, it's okay, but I'm just pushing it to the side, and that's going to manifest in a really problematic way because I can only kick the can down the road so far. um, so, so I would encourage all of us really to, in these next few weeks, to try to look at our own patterns of emotional management. Are we dealing with our emotions adaptively? Are we dealing with them in a way, as Kemma talked about, that provide an opportunity for resolution, for catharsis, for increased understanding? Or are we at the moment, or perhaps historically we've had this pattern of dealing with our emotions in a less adaptive way, one that hasn't been as conducive to our achieving what we want to achieve? Do we attack when we feel certain kinds of emotions? Do we hide? Do we disconnect from them? And if we do, there's always opportunities to reach out for support in dealing more adaptively with those emotions. Not only do you have hopefully a circle of support around you, as Kemma was saying, those people you can turn to try to get honest feedback and support. But the college also offers supports in those areas, whether, if that's academic, support that you need, that's advising, or your faculty members, or tutoring. If that's more personal in nature, obviously we have Talkspace that we're providing to you free of charge, so that you can go on through our website and get some coaching from a licensed therapist on how you can better manage those emotions, so that you can achieve what it is you want to in life.
Well said, David. I just well said. Yeah, I think if we just take a moment to just breathe sometimes and just do a check. Am I really hungry, or am I just feeling lonely? Am I tired? Do I need a nap? My sister likes to say to me a lot, Cam, you need a nap. Go take a nap. And I'm like, what am I in kindergarten? She's like, at this moment, yes, go take a nap. And so maybe you need a nap, or maybe you need to talk to a friend, whatever it is, just being reflective, like just taking time to think about who you are and what's going on inside of you. That's half the battle, right? Not avoiding the pain, not avoiding the check-in because you're like, I don't really want to see myself. I don't really want to know. Because if you avoid you, that's how you enter into situations where you don't really know how you got to this place, but now everything is falling apart, and you didn't really want this to happen, yet it has happened. And a lot of times, I'm sorry, that's Sabela. Video games, y'all. It's the middle of the day. So lunch, video games. But taking time to really just check in and see what's going on for you can be so beneficial, help you to become a proactive person instead of a reactive one. And when all else fails, Just get one of these jokers. Go to the SPCA and just talk to one of them. You don't have to buy them because you got to pay money for them. Don't, no, don't. I don't want to cuddle with you right now, but just talk to one of these people. These little people, they're very helpful. Look at that. See?
That's right. Sometimes we all just need some unconditional love, right?
Yes, we
And
do.
and we're not going to get it from cats. I'm sorry. So,
Yes, not going to get it from cats. So
well,
it was
Kemma,
good
thank you so
talking to
much.
you.
Yes, it was
Yeah,
great to talk to you as well. And thank you so much for sharing your stories and your insights with our students and colleagues. And I look forward to talking with you soon.
absolutely. See you on our next Wellness Wednesday.
Take care, Kemma.
Bye, David.
Bye.